introduce everyone. Hello, everybody on YouTube. We're here with another edition of Conceiving, Birthing and Nurturing the Thrive Generation. I'm just going to press record and get going and introduce everybody, or give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. So let's just get this going. Hello and welcome everybody to our second edition of Conceiving, Birthing and Nurturing the Thrive Generation. I am joined today by 4 phenomenal birth keepers, wisdom keepers, and we're having a discussion on the rising Caesarean rate in the UK and around the world. And actually, what is the resolution to this? What is the issue and what is the resolution? And the intention of these discussions is very much based on the 3-pronged formula for peace in this book, StarPeace 101, and this is called How to Create Peace in One Generation. Now, this is my intention, and I'm the founder of the StarPeace movement. I'm also the founder of RozyGlow, which is the methodology that brings the movement to life. And really, I'm just honored to be in this space where we can have this discussion, because if we want things to change on this planet, if we want to truly create peace on earth, we must start with looking at birth, pregnancy, conception, and sacred union relationships. And, you know, we all have this saying called throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which comes up in a lot of discussions. And often when we don't really see the big picture of what's actually going on and dissect the things that could be really useful. So this is a solution-focused conversation on the day of the solstice. So in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the longest night. It's the time of the least light, but we are seeding the light in this time. And we intend that everybody who sees this, who hears this, because it's a podcast as well as a YouTube video, will really receive what is for the highest good. And we're intending to bring everyone together who is focused on bringing peace to earth, on helping us to overcome the challenges of being wired to survive rather than being wired to thrive. So we're looking at epigenetic trauma, we're looking at how we can do repair work, and we're looking also at how we can prevent the very issues that we see in the world today. So on that note, I'm just going to invite everyone here to introduce themselves. Sophia, you're new to me, so I'll give you a chance just to come in. But who would like to go first and share who you are, what you're doing, and what you'd like to share on today's topic?
Well, since Julie volunteered me, I will speak. And my name is Françoise Barbara Friedman, and I'm the founder of Birthlight, but I'm also a birth keeper within academia, and I still work at Cambridge University. And I am trying to look at the bigger picture after these articles that have been recently published, and following our last conversation, which had so much to think about, because free birth is linked with the rise of the C-section. In fact, I think it's a parallel phenomenon, and we can't separate the two. So I think today's conversation will probably link back to what we discussed last time. And at the moment, I'm working with indigenous midwives in the Amazon region, and they face criminalization, exclusion, and also the rise of C-section, which is particularly high in Latin American cities, but now in every little place in the Amazon, women are subjected to C-sections, often without their consent, for no good reason. And sometimes they are like their tubes are ligated just within the section, because there is also a campaign, the sterilization campaigns are ongoing. So we need to, yeah, this bigger picture is worldwide, is a worldwide scene. And what's happening in the UK is very sad, because the UK was one of the bastions of home birth, more than Holland now. So we need to think about this turning point in the UK, and about creativity, about Rozy's intent to bring solutions. I don't have ready-made solutions, but I have a few ideas which I'm happy to discuss in this conversation. So thank you for the invite.
Honored to have you here. And for those who don't know, Dr. Francoise Friedman, you are a doctor of medical anthropology at Cambridge University Hospital, right? Is that your working title there still? Yeah. And also the founder of Birthlight. We were having a discussion about that, but I've been honored to spend many years by your side and to have learned so much from your wisdom and experience with the Amazonian ladies, the mothers, the grandmothers, and the granddaughters, as you've shared before. And it feels, the issue of depopulation is actually something that is important for us to bring forward, it feels, because the longer term impact of medicalized birth and also fertility and pregnancy is one where we seem to be having more and more issues bringing babies into this world. So it's something else there as well. Thank you for the introduction, Francoise. I'm going to pass on now for whoever else is ready to share.
I've unmuted myself. Shall I share?
Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Brooks. I'm a lay midwife. I have been for 30 years, and I run a project called Dara Luth Oasis. And we are creating communities all over Europe to really change birth culture, mainly through education. I worked with Midwifery Today for a long time, and all those incredible women there. And I realized that students were just being taught absolute crap, basically, which was a really enormous, I was always like, academia, they must be teaching fantastic things. And now I realize that actually they're not very often. It was interesting what Francois said about Holland. Actually, Holland's section rate is around 17%. So they are still doing really, really well on the section rate, mainly because the government in Holland is really, really for home birth. It is really part of their solid culture of birth. Here in the UK, I'm back in the UK now for Christmas, and it's a little bit depressing, it has to be said, to read this this particular article and all the other articles that The Guardian, this kind of witch hunt that seems to be happening right now in the press. They're really going for it. I've just listened to all of the podcasts that have been produced by The Guardian. I think it's Kate and I can't remember the other woman's name. It was really quite intense listening to that series of podcasts was really intense. So yeah, what are we going to do about it? I mean, I think we have to start really at this like base level. So
don't worry about that. Let's do the intros, then we'll come into the solution.
Yeah. I want the solution straight away. What are you talking about?
I love it. And
that's who I am. That's who I am. But I'm a lay midwife, so I've learned my trade, as we say, empirically. So I haven't been through academia. And this gives me kind of a little bit of a kind of different view, maybe, of what's going on. Bless you.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, again, this is the thing, is that you have a different perspective. I have been involved in your training programs. They're awesome. I've, been with Francoise for many years with Birthlight and trained in all the dry land courses. And this is the thing. This is about preparation. We're talking about preparation and how important preparation is and how that is missing, because a 2-hour birth prep at a hospital, which is about what drugs you can take and what's going to be done to you if you don't actually say, actually, what else is possible? this is something that has been going on for a long time. And back when I started with Birthlight, I think the Caesarean rates in the UK were something like 23 to 27%. 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Can you remember, Francoise, what they were like then? It was so much lower, right? So the question is why? And the reasons were being given why. We really are really quite happy to bring the light to those and go, really? That doesn't actually stand. So I'm going to, for now, who's next?
Shall I jump in?
Go for it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. I'm over in Corfu, Greece. I feel very honored to be in such company today and to be speaking of such matters, especially on a new moon solstice. It's actually my birthday tomorrow, so it's an important time and always seems to culminate in something either in my own personal process or looking out on the collective process that seems to be unfolding. And yes, from Australia to England, there's a lot going on in the news at the moment, and kind of wondering, why now? Just the fact that we're having the conversation for me, and so many different angles are coming together, looking for solutions here and now, and staying out of the fight, so to speak, that people would like us to have, and saying, well, let's talk about this and find a way. I actually specialize in water, and I am also a doula. I created the Pregnancy and Birth Network of Corfu during a pandemic on an island that has traditionally had up to 70% Caesarean rates, and Greece as a whole has had up to 70% Caesarean rates. I've stepped back from birthing, unless somebody's really preparing with and through water, and really focusing my work on preparing during fertility for conception, and then supporting the whole pregnancy and birth with water so that babies can remember more of who they are and why they came. So I would say the aquatic intelligence, which is innate and we are born with, not just in the babies, but also the future parents, to arrive at the capacity to be able to say with a very crystal clear yes or no, this is right for me or not.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's actually something we were touching on last session, which was about us advocating for ourselves and knowing what is right for us and what will allow us to feel calm, because we have to bring that in, and we're all different. We have different backgrounds. So Sophia and I share in common, we're both Greek. Well, I'm 3/4 Greek, but born in England. And so I spent years actually bringing the Birthlight courses to Greece, to Athens, and seeding it there, which was awesome. And actually, what I have a doula background as well, and I am not working presently so much with birth. It's much more working with birthing the soul and working with empowering adults to be heart-centered and soul influenced, so we can actually change things from a leadership level as well, because I see the leaders of attached to me. We really want to do
Absolutely. Can I just add one last thing before Julie takes over? The main body of the work, being in a sort of a womb pool, is about repatterning what is in all of us. We've all been born, right? But the more we arrive in our own timeline, which gets confused or lost if we're born out of our own time, so that we can remember why it is, we came to be here and this time. And so much has to do with this timing and being allowed to be born in our timing. And the moment that timing is touched upon or interfered with, we're out of time. We're out of our timeline. And I'm saying that for future babies and children, that is so important that they're born in their timeline because of what they're bringing.
Thank you. And that this is a switch into what I'll call the organic paradise timeline, where we are co-creating a thriving reality for all. And that is the perfect introduction for Julie. Come on in, Julie.
Hi, thanks, Rosie. Thanks, everybody. It's fantastic to be here. And speaking of timeline, I've just come back from India, where I have just received 2 awards for my work. And in my thank you speech, I actually told my story of being induced, and how all my life, if somebody called me to come out of my room or my house, come on, Julie, you're late, I would just have this really strong reaction. And my mantra became, I will come, Julie will come in Julie's time, like, and how strong this is in me, and how we all have something like that through our own birth story. And so this was mostly speaking to clinical psychologists in India, and they absolutely were so interested. So there's definitely a lot of interest now in India, and they're clamoring for more. So well, after a very strong spiritual experience when I was 16, which just completely changed everything about me, I could say, I was in touch with unconditional love and light, which is in everything. And I thought to myself, okay, so this was at a twinkling of an eye in the middle of the night. I hadn't done anything for it. And I thought to myself after, well, if this love exists, and it does, if light and intelligence is in everything, and it is, then why do we suffer? I was just like, I don't get it. Why did, before this experience, I didn't get it. At 15, I tried actually to commit suicide because I thought, if this is life, I'm out of here. And then suddenly this experience, and I'm, in touch with unconditional love, feeling completely loved, seen, known, part of an intelligent universe. And wow, okay. So it took me a few years, before I found the answer. And that led me to a spiritual teacher called Omraam Mikhail Ivanov. And in his works, and I actually heard him say this, if we were to look after pregnant mothers in 2 generations, or just 50 years, sorry, Rosie, 2 generations, not one, we could close all our hospitals and all our prisons. I was 22 years old. I cried and said, that's it. But in 1981, nobody was talking about this. And so we had to start from the beginning. I had to start from the beginning. So what does this mean? And it's taken me on 45 years of journey, which is still continuing, to understand myself, my own experiences, and then has led me to have my own program, speak internationally, go to the United Nations, change the United Nations, and put together the Birthing the New Humanity, this anthology, and really a thought leader. I just keep, hammering on the same thing, that it's the way we start that sets us up for life. This is now recognized by all the global governments. It's been on the G20 agenda. So if they all know it, why are they not doing anything about it? So that's where we come in. So we have to now get into action. And if they're not, they've had a chance. They've had since 2018, when this document came out, the Nurturing Care document. They know if they now have chosen to, ignore it, which basically they have, then it's up to us, the people, to make the changes. And I think that's what we're doing, all in our own way, like pieces in a puzzle, bringing it from all aspects, that, and including now, in India, which is the most populous nation in the world, Caesarean rates are very high. And what we're advocating for is the 2 sides. One is more support for parenting from preconception. IVF is on every street corner. So we're going further and further and further away from the principles of yoga and natural living. And of course, there's more and more mental health issues that they don't know how to deal with. So that's it. We're right in the middle of the subject. If we get the beginning right, then people will live healthy, happy, creative lives. And that's what we have to do.
Thank you, Julie. You've brought several points up that are actually really relevant to this conversation. One of them is your own birth. And I think I would love to hear from everybody when we are sharing. It'd be great if you know your own birth circumstances. Like I was a vaginal breech in a labor ward, but I was born with the cord around my neck twice. And apparently I thought it was really tight, but my dad said, no, you had loads of room. I was like, oh, changes my narrative. But certainly I got stuck, and I do everything arse about face, bum first. I came into the world. And actually the timing is interesting because, yeah, I ran a whole yoga business for 15 years based on starting all classes 10 minutes late, the Greek. But you know what? The mothers loved it because they weren't coming in stressed with their babies. So we made it work. But our own birth story is so important because it plays a huge role in what we choose to do and how we do it. And we're dealing with a world right now where most political leaders, most decision makers, and certainly most obstetricians and midwives have never gone through their own birth trauma, their own story. And that to me is criminal. How can we possibly call people experts in this world, no offense, on their experience, but to not actually go back and look at why they came into it in the first place and the impact of their own initial journey in life on how they do things. So that's a part of my vision for the future, that it's part of every training, right? That this is part of the journey. So thank you for bringing that up. And also, I know we have quite parallel, although I think we have about 20 years difference between us in terms of when we entered the world. Our lives are quite parallel. And I was a very depressed teenager myself, looking around the world going, what is going on? I don't want to be here. This is crazy. I now understand I'm an empath. I call that's what a starseed is as well, bringing a different level of consciousness to the planet. And for me, my journey started with rebirthing when I was 14 years old. My mother had the wisdom to allow me to have this experience, and it started this trajectory for me. So thank you for bringing that up. What else? You mentioned this nurturing care document and the fact that, you know, all global governments know about this situation. And actually in England, since I think 2010, maybe earlier, we've had the 1001 Critical Days Cross-Party Manifesto. So the ignorance is not, this is not that people don't know, we know. So we have to now look at the accountability and without judgment of walking and talking, because if we're talking and we're not walking, what's that about? And I think we all know here that litigation fears seem to basically control decision-making within the services. And none of us presently are working within the NHS. I have worked alongside the NHS, as has, I believe, Françoise, and also Vanessa, you've been involved, haven't you? But we, you know, we're in different places doing different things. And for me, like one of the most telling experiences was I was running my business, Enjoy Yoga in Croydon, from 2004 to 2018. And for 10 years, I was sitting as a user rep initially on the Croydon University Hospital Maternity Services Liaison Committee. I then became co-chair, and then I chaired it for, I think it was 12 to 18 months, I was the chair. In that time, this unit went from one of the worst performing to one of the best performing in the country. And it didn't just happen. It happened because all of us who were service providers outside of the NHS were working with the service to help improve it, to be advocates for the women, and also to not just listen to the stats, but actually to command some accountability. And it blew my mind what was possible when we worked together. But the saddest thing for me was when I was taking the wonderful research that I was receiving from going to Françoise Friedman's wonderful birthlight conferences and getting all this latest research and taking it to this you know, committee, and all I'd hear is, oh, we know about that, but we don't have a budget for it. It's unacceptable. That for me is like really crazy. Now, I'm not going to get beating my drum because we are solution focused here today, but it's easy to get riled. Birth is really primal, right? So let's set the intention now. I really want to hear from everyone. What do you want to say? Because the reasons we're being given for this rise in Caesarean rates is older mothers, not so healthy mothers, not getting the guarantee of a maternity, of the kind of service you would want, birthing centres closing, not being so much availability for home birth. There's this huge thing, as we said, that at the moment birth is massively being talked about in all of the UK newspapers, both, well, mainly the highbrow ones, but the essential thing with this is that you know, until recently, my understanding is it was very difficult to go for an elective cesarean in England. It was not actually something that you could just say, I want one. And there are definitely times when a cesarean is the best option. I was talking with a client recently where the idea of her going through the next 20 weeks stressed because she would, you know, had to have a natural birth and she was traumatized from something that happened in the past just didn't make sense. So this is not being anti anything. It's about us being able to find our way through and look at the impact of cesarean births, what we can actually do to reduce the rates and why that's important. And even in dealing with the rates that we have now, what's the kind of work we can do to support the next generation to actually not have to go more and more down a medicalized route. So I hand over. Who would like to pick the mic up and share your background and experience?
Well, I'm very happy just to put something on the table.
Go for it.
And that's it. That, you know, I've just been talking to a large number of young Indian, mostly women, but men as well. And they just don't know the consequences. So they are being sold something as that this is good for you and this is good for your baby. So which mother would not go for that if this is what they're being told? And it's the same everywhere. It's the same for medication. It's the same for the food we eat. It's the same for the clothes we wear. It's the same for everything. So it's a marketing push by money hungry corporations. Okay, so what we need to do is, I think, just get out the facts and figures and just inform. Do you really know that these are the consequences? And maybe Françoise will be able to tell us, are there any longitudinal studies done on the consequences, the long-term consequences? We know some of the shorter ones, but have there been any real research that shows? Because the WHO obviously recommends a far lower rate of cesarean. What are the facts and figures? What is the mother who accepts to have a cesarean? What is she faced with? And if she really knew that, would she accept? I think that's, you know, that's where we have to come to. If somebody passed me a lollipop and said, you know, this is poisonous, would you like it? And it looks colorful and everything, would I eat it? Probably not. But if they pass you a lollipop and say, well, you know, this tastes good and it's good for you as well, you know.
Have we learned our lesson yet on that one though? Like listening and not questioning. Yes. Françoise, do you have any figures that you could share on this in terms of the experience?
Not at my fingertips, but I know that in the primal research, health research database, there are some studies, not just on the implications, long-term implications of cesarean, because I think it's very difficult. There are so many confounding factors. It's quite difficult to separate if it's the cesarean or something else. But what Julie and what Sophia were saying, and about the timeline of the baby, the consciousness of the baby at birth, I think there is the fact that cesareans often do not respect that and are violent. And there has been an argument in favor of the gentle cesarean, but I think it's quite superficial. And maybe we can disentangle that as well, whether the future is the gentle cesarean, which is what the technology adepts would want us to have, to believe. And that, I think that's the trend that all the articles in the British newspapers veer towards. It's like, no, it's safer, and following the back push against the natural birth. This is what is said in all the articles. This is what is being blamed, and I think it's it's barking up the wrong tree. It's blaming the victim, actually. The midwives are being blamed for championing home birth, and the training is being blamed for not preparing midwives today to be obstetric nurses, in fact. And that takes me back to our previous conversation. We need to go outside the system to change it. And thank you, Vanessa, for reminding us of the Dutch rates, which are, very low at 17%, and the home birth rate is 12%. And I think that's perhaps more significant, that the home birth rate is still very high, but there is a referral system. The midwives can take the women to hospital and often do this more often today than they did 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But if we had something like this in the UK, it would be a solution. And I've been through so many different versions of that, the domino scheme, the integration of care team, caseload, midwifery. I mean, all this has had its own potential, and it's been ruined by the administration constraints in the NHS, to do with budgets, to do with administration, to do with all sorts of reasons. But we've had the answers. And the maternal deaths were very sad, and everybody agrees that they should never have happened. But why did they happen? It's not so much because of the midwives preaching natural birth. We have to see beyond that, I think. And maybe Vanessa's got more to say about what made her want to create her midwifery education program outside the system.
Which is incredibly brave, and you have had a lot of challenges you've had to face, hence the song that we were talking about. Thank you for sharing that. And just before I pass on to you, Vanessa, I think if we even just quote Michel Audin, the late Michel Audin, and the fact that we want to change the world, we really have to look at birth and look at what's going on. And it does seem that what is going on is this general consensus in the mainstream media in the UK that natural birth, dangerous, go towards this gentle cesarean, optional cesarean option. And yes, without going into agendas, I think the looking at fear of birth is very important as well, because so many young women are really fearful, and older women are fearful of giving birth. And all we ever see as a model of birth is trauma, really, women screaming on a bed for dear life. That's what we're programmed with. So we have no concept of ever seeing birth as easeful, natural. And actually, none of us really, we're not here at this point of evolution of humanity because of all the tech in the past. We're here because nature has done its job. And I remember a few years ago, there was another conversation about rising cesarean rates. And the reason given by the sort of experts was because our brains were getting bigger. And I'm just reminded of Francoise's trainings where we would work with the pelvis and look at how you can increase the inner circumference of the pelvis by 28%, it was in the end. So this really does make a difference in terms of helping babies get in and out. But birth is here, and we're seeing that the issues to address are much earlier. So Vanessa, over to you.
Over to me. I think for me, one of the main problems seems to be that actually midwives have really no clue what birth is anymore. So many midwives that are trained within the UK system, and I mentor student midwives. So I really have this kind of eye to look at actually what is going on. Many UK midwives have never even seen a home birth at the end of their training. which is absolutely insane, which actually means that these women, they don't actually know what a birth is. I mean, I'm not saying that a hospital birth is bad and a home birth is good, but actually they are very, very different things. They are a completely different dimension. And if as a midwife you have never seen a beautiful home birth, then you don't really know how birth can be. So there is no way within your aura that you are going to be able to persuade a pregnant woman that actually she's safe if you don't actually believe that. So I think we have a really, really key problem is that many, many midwives don't believe in birth anymore. They don't really know what birth is anymore. And also they're in these units where we have a 50% home birth, a 50% section rate, and they're not saying anything. And I think there's also professionally quite a lot of fear about coming out and being the odd one out. You know, actually, you're in this unit. You must know, if you have half a brain, you know that actually it's not okay for 50% of these people to have a section. I mean, these figures mainly come from UK teaching hospitals. They have the highest statistics. And that's even more scary. I mean, obviously, sometimes they are high risk units, and which is why there's more sections. But if these students again and again are just seeing sections, then actually, as a professional, you're not trained to do anything else. So I think this real core disbelief that women can actually give birth has taken over the profession, really. And as you say, the fear from the women, I mean, we have this like too posh to push thing, which is like, sounds like a joke, but actually I hear it from young women. They don't want like a floppy fanny. I mean, please, come on. Like what? Like, you know, these things, but these are the things that really stick in people's minds. You know, they're in the newspapers. Too posh to push, you're going to have this fanny that's like a train can go through it. These are the things that actually young people are really, really thinking about when they're looking at birth. What do I want? What's the easiest thing to do? Oh, it's going to be horrible having a baby. Oh, it's going to be horrific. It's going to hurt, all of these things. And as humans, we're kind of like our brains want to go for the easiest route. That's what we're like these days. You know, we don't want to fight for so much.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they're talking to their midwives are a bit like, yeah, you know, you could have a section if you want, because actually in their core as well, they're not going, oh my God, actually, no, it's really empowering to have an incredible birth. I mean, I think it's really important that we don't get into this space where we're kind of almost criminalizing people that are choosing an elective cesarean, because for some people it is a super valid choice, and also for some people in an emergency a section saves their lives and their babies. So we have to be really careful that we are going to kind of bridging this gap, that we're not just this natural free birth crowd, and then the whole other, you know, we need to bridge the gap somehow. There's all these women falling down this gap in the middle, and these are the people that I think we really need to reach. Yeah, I mean, you know, more and more positive people on the telly having fantastic births. How incredible would that be? More people telling their stories. All of these things would be great. But first, we have to change the culture of how midwives think about birth. I think this is such an important thing that we do. I'm not totally sure how to do that, because when I go to hospitals and say, hey, I'm quite an interesting person, can I speak to your midwives? They're like, oh, no, you're just weird. You're not talking to our midwives. So, I mean, finding our way in, you know, how do we find our way in to change it? Or do we just give up, which is what I did? I'm like, I don't want anything to do with the system. It's like smashing your head against the wall all the time. I'm just going to create something new. So, yeah, I mean, I just also really just so want to be gentle on women that have had sections, because so many, particularly in my community, as a kind of hippie community, if you go and have a section, then you failed.
Yeah.
And I know that they hold that guilt, and they hold so much of that, and it's so painful for women that they feel that, you know, they haven't given their baby the right start and all of these things. So yeah, being gentle on everybody.
This is a really important pivot into solutions, actually, because the whole thing with that, a couple of things you've mentioned. One, let's just talk quickly about the midwives. I remember working with a phenomenal midwife who was the head of the birthing center at Croydon University Hospital, which some people know as Mayday. And the thing was, she actually did a thesis. Her thesis when she was doing a postgrad was on the enjoyment rather than the endurance of birth. And she was a real advocate. She was amazing. She ended up with 3 cesarean births herself. And the reason she did was because of the amount of trauma. We talked about it. She said she'd seen so many births go wrong, as in not the way intended. And it's not part of the midwives training or support afterwards to overcome that. I mean, a bit of counseling is one thing, but actually having the opportunity to clear whatever has been built up in your body as cellular memory trauma, either from your own experience or from what you've witnessed. This has to be part of, it's like spiritual, how can I put it? Like we have showers, we have physical cleanliness, we have spiritual cleanliness. This is about our professional ability to stay present and not burn out, because many of us have stepped away for the reasons we've mentioned. And the other thing you mentioned about women having had a cesarean birth and feeling like a failure. Yeah, 4 days labor was my experience. And I was, I had pethidine at home in the end. I'd wanted to have the home birth, but I was prepared. I was not prepared. I thought I was, but I was head prepared, not body prepared. And the ancestral influences, because we all have them and we're not currently clearing them. So I think this is a really important part of the solution of the future, is that we are actually examining our own birth stories and working with that to clear any challenges, rewiring, and also any children we have had and it's not gone the way we intended. This is very important. There are some great things going on. When I was working closely with Birthlight and involved in the trainings, we used to do a lot of work around cesarean scar tissue massage and supporting, you know, so there wasn't the adhesions that could cause the problems of having a VBAC for women who wanted to have a vaginal birth after cesarean. There's something called human garage now. I don't know if you've all heard of it. Yeah. You know, the fascial release people, they're doing loads of stuff, both for the babies, the children, and the parents who have had the impact of having such a birth. And the one thing I remember is that there is a real purpose to actually a baby moving through the birth canal, if possible, in terms of how it helps with the brain fluid and also the lungs and moving the fluid out of the lungs. And so having practices afterwards to repattern if this wasn't the experience is very important. And I think last discussion we had, it was like, how amazing would it be if every woman after her birth, every woman partner and their baby were given the baby cues, the pre-cries, the ability to close their body properly after birth, all of the post-care that is missing from the developed world's approach to birth, but was always there in the indigenous methodologies. This is the whole point, is there is so much we can do just to address it now. And one of my favorite things in terms of what I learned through the work I was doing with Birthlight was actually pelvis. It wasn't pelvis mapping. That was a bit too complex for me. But being able to look at different shaped pelvises, being able to say, okay, well, this is going to be a better position for you to bring your baby. It's one thing to birth a baby, you've got to get it into the pelvis first, right? So, the different levels in which we can get, I would say, misaligned from the start is where we have gateways that can allow us to look at, okay, how's the relationship with myself, my body, my sexuality, my idea of opening, because so many women are so scared. It's one thing to think floppy fanny. It's another thing to think I'm going to die giving birth, which is what a lot of women are scared of, right? It's subconscious and it's wired. So who would like to talk a little bit more about solutions as you see it? How can we address this with the profession?
Can I add a tone here? Just add a tone, a touch of water, I would say. We don't need to have specialized baths or warm pools, just a bucket of water. And that sense of pleasure that it brings back in, just putting your feet in warm water, and the softness and the gentleness and softening up the body is a quality that somehow has been lost from the whole conversation around birth. It's become hard and tough and fearful. And softening up doesn't need to be a complex process. And then I'm also hearing how we're talking about C-section, but what happened for us to get to a C-section? And what about the induction? Why is induction increasing? And why is the dance between baby and mother not happening? You know, what are our bodies as women saying in arriving at the place which becomes a C-section? So we tend to see sort of birth as separate parts, and yet rethinking or refeeling again as a continuum of experience, which could be well before we even get to the birth. Birth could be just the last part of something that started well before even preparation,
Yes.
when we are aware of the impact. And sort of more programs, I think preparation is mostly done by doulas. I don't, preparation to conceive, I'm talking about, where the body or the waters are already softened up and prepared for.
Doesn't seem like anyone's doing that at the moment. And that
No, I don't think anyone's doing.
Yeah. People are doing.
Oh, sorry. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I think also language. I try not to say C-section. I have been saying C-section because it's just so glib. Where if we can change this language to major abdominal surgery, maybe this would make people just think like a little bit like, oh, maybe I don't want that. A C-section sounds almost like fun.
Yeah.
Almost. But
Easy.
major surgery, major surgery doesn't sound fun. You know, and I think, you know, as we were talking earlier, just recovering from major surgery, the effects that it has on breastfeeding, it has the effect it has on the rest of the family, the way that it affects a woman in so many ways, that she feels really incapable out of her birth, that even if she's in a hospital, that she can't actually lean over and get her baby out of the cot. And I've seen this with so many women, they just crying because they're pressing this bell because their baby's crying and they can't get their baby out of this cot because they can't physically, you know, there are like so many, this is such a, it's a small thing to say, but actually if you're a mama in a bed and you can't get your baby and it's crying, then you are feeling really, really, really shit. And I think also the lack of oxytocin during a section birth also is an enormous thing to think about. The fear of a mother going into a section, this adrenaline, like, oh my God, I'm going into this theater. It's a completely alien place. And the lack of oxytocin. I mean, we do see these where the baby comes out and it's given to the mother, but this poor mother's just lying down. She's still under anesthetic. So we have really such a lack of oxytocin during this kind of birth as well. And the world is suffering. I mean, we talked a little bit about this last time as well. But, you know, oxytocin is like such a vital part of the birth. And if it's missing, then women are just going to go on also not to feed, not to bond with their babies. Then they get depressed. You know, we are in just like such this round of like, oh my goodness, we have to raise this up. We have to raise the bar of what women actually expect when they're having their babies as well. I want to feel great. I want to feel like a queen. I want all the women that I help to have babies to feel like, holy shit, I can do anything in the world now I've birthed this baby. And this is another thing that section mums are really missing out on. They're not feeling like, oh yeah, I'm the queen. They're just not. And it's sad. You know, it's so sad. And I think it's not just for midwives. I mean, it's not just for mothers, midwives as well. For a midwife to go into a birth that's to be with a mother and then there's a section, it's a bit like, oh, okay, that was kind of a failure. Whereas a midwife who is a really incredible, empowered birth also feels like a useful, incredibly useful human being. So on every level, raising this bar, raising this like, oh, hey, yeah, birth can be incredible. This is where we're at. We need to do this.
That what you've just said is that is the starting point. Birth is incredible. If you've ever been in a room when a woman has given birth, oh my goodness,
Like,
it is like, oh, like, you know, and actually also in what you just shared there, if a birth has not, or a labor's not gone to, you know, as intended, and there has been a real need for a Caesarean birth, there's a very different feeling around that. And even if it's a planned one. So let's just take the next 10 minutes to sort of wrap up into this place of, I mean, I still haven't heard your birth stories, ladies, so I'd love to hear.
I really want to talk about my birth story.
If we go a little over, we do, and if we have another conversation, we do that, because this is, it's much bigger than an hour, and I'd love when people are listening to this to comment, tell us what you want to know more about. We're committed to coming and having these discussions, and actually, even what you said, Vanessa, about oxytocin and cesarean births, we can totally bring oxytocin into cesarean birth. Actually, you were quoted. I was with a friend for dinner yesterday, and she was quoting you talking about the doctors in India who realized they had to like sort their energy out before they went into the birth room, so they weren't stressed and bringing adrenaline in because they'd had that conflict outside. So, you know, people are listening and taking this on board, and we can bring consciousness into every birth. So again, a very, very, very passionate motto of mine is no guilt, no blame, no shame. Thank you, Francoise, for that one. And this is, it's not about pointing fingers, but we must address the issue, because in the longer term, if we don't, it is really not a positive direction for humanity for lots of reasons. And there is a lot of research. Go on, Sophia, tell us about your birth.
I was aware of a vanishing twin syndrome. I spent the last 15 years unraveling that story in me. I wrote my thesis on
Sorry, can you say that again?
I wrote my thesis on vanishing twin syndrome. It became a podcast called Sophia's Birth Story. And to give words, to give life, to give form to something that was so invisible and wasn't witnessed by the outside world, I think has been my own biggest becoming and biggest teacher, to be able to say that that invisible reality to the world had such a huge impact in who I am today, and that that's real. And if the people that do remember or have processed their birth stories can talk about it, because it's not hulu-gulu, it is science, it is pre and perinatal psychology. You know, it's new, perhaps to some, it's fresh, but when you start doing the work within yourself, you're changing yourself, your birth story, your future possible birth or giving birth. And it's hard. It's as hard as giving birth sometimes, because you're giving birth to yourself, but that's where real change happens. And I think if, like Julie is kind of saying publicly, I had a birth story. This is real. This is my story. And this is how it impacted me. And, you know, with the rising rates of IVF babies, we've got twins, triplets. This is having a real impact on the personalities and the sort of psychological personalities that are being formed in the future.
Yes. Yes.
So I'd love to talk more about our birth stories and the impact they have.
Let's do a birth story talk. Let's just have a brief one now, but let's do a conversation on our birth stories and how
Thank you.
I think that would
And
be
tomorrow is International Vanishing Twin Syndrome Day, which is why I insisted on saying something about
And your
it.
birthday.
So thank you. Yes, yes.
Do you want to just briefly explain what vanishing twin syndrome is for anyone who doesn't know what that is?
Very briefly, it happens in the first few days or even weeks after conception, where there isn't just one embryo, maybe there's two or even three. And quite naturally, the second or third can get absorbed without anyone noticing. But it can happen further on in pregnancy, even second month or third month. And the kind of surviving twin, per se, is wired for being a twin. So when they're born, they might not remember it. There might not be any physical evidence of that loss, but the psychology of the surviving twin is that of, it's complex, but of deep separation, of something missing. And if that is not witnessed or seen or recognized by somebody that has the understanding for that, it can be, it can be a life half-lived or a life double-lived, and not quite knowing why.
Love it. And please, would you give us, thank you for sharing that. And
thank you.
We're going to have this conversation for sure, because it'd be interesting. What is your what would you like to summarize with in terms of how you see a resolution to this rising caesarean section presently? What would you like to say?
Oh, empowering each individual to be able to say no. no, thank you, or yes, please.
Mm.
As simple as that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
Françoise, would you like to go next, or Vanessa? Like, who's feeling up for your little birth story and then your summary?
Well, yeah, birth story in a nutshell. My mother was not ready to have a baby. And when I arrived, I was greeted with, oh, what an ugly baby this is. And I think it impacted somewhere. And I grew up. Ugly duckling syndrome is also a syndrome. But I resonate with Sophia's story of the vanishing twin syndrome, because I've seen a lot of healing of this in the water when babies cry a lot. When babies cry a lot, actually, when they're introduced to water, and then the mothers who had this vanishing twin syndrome start processing their experience, and then you see the changes in the babies, and it's this mother and baby dance that happens not just during labor, but afterwards it continues. And sometimes mothers process their mother's experiences, and this was my case. I had to, in some way, start healing my mother and her mother and her grandmother, who was a powerful midwife in France a long time ago. But the women in the next generation turned their back on this and wanted something else. What I think the conversation revolves around embodiment, and you said embodiment. You said a powerful woman is an embodied woman, and the ability to say yes or no to a Caesarean comes from all this this long resolution, which can happen also through a birth. So we can't expect women to be too prepared either, because their birth itself can be the healing. And a C-section, even if it's a major abdominal surgery, can be a healing.
Mm.
And I think my major abdominal surgery after a coil that was badly inserted was a very powerful healing, and helped me to go deeper into my mother's story as well, and what it takes to want a baby or not want a baby, and the timing of it. But yes, enough of me.
Oh, never.
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 Never enough.
So, is there anything else you'd like to just say, Françoise, in terms of the resolution here, like as you see it?
The resolution, I think, is about empowerment, is about helping women to find their intent, to also imagine what a good birth can be like, and to hear these beautiful birth stories. I think, my daughter Mary said, for me, it made sense to have a home birth, because I grew up at home and it was the normal. Women had easy birth, good birth. But I think the less we know that, the more we are going to be seduced by the colorful and lollipops that are being sold to us, of course. But at least we have a choice, and that's so important, because in places where women don't even have a choice, it's much harder. So I think maybe working on that choice, working on empowering women to make a choice
Making
when
it
it's possible, because
decision.
sometimes it is better, and sometimes fear is too great, and it's a legitimate choice too.
Thank you. That's very, very, very beautifully put. And I think this is the point. Julie mentioned it as well. It's about us actually making informed decisions, being aware of the pros and cons in relation to us specifically, our particular body, our conditions. I know someone, for example, who's got fibroids presently, and where the fibroids are plays a part again in how things can actually play out. So the more we work, it's not either or, it's and this and more, and how we bring everything together to say, well, what is the best possible outcome for this unit, this woman, this baby, this partner, this father, like what is the best possible scenario, and to empower, because from the perspective of the mother feeling safe in the environment, like for her, it's whichever environment, whichever choice she makes, that she can relax into it and say, this is the right thing for me. And also that she has the tools to be able to overcome the challenges pre and post. And the connection between the baby, we haven't talked a lot about this, but the connection between the mother and the baby is, regardless of the type of birth we have, we can really build that. And the breath, oxytocin, movement, singing, all of these things that are easily overlooked in the tech world, right? It's like, no, this is back to basics. So thank you for reminding me of that, Francoise. Vanessa, over to you, darling.
Well, I was dragged out kicking and screaming with a forceps birth, and I've never, I've been kicking and screaming ever since. So I'm working quite a lot on not kicking and screaming, and growing old gracefully. Let's see how that goes. But yeah, what are the solutions? I think we are the solution. Lots of women that really, really believe in and know that keeping the knowledge that birth can be sacred and beautiful and empowering. I loved my births. I mean, also, I was in a place where actually a section wasn't really going to happen. I was in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I was going to be having to be carried down a mountain for like half an hour before I even got in a car. So my focus was like, shit, I'm going to have a baby up this mountain. I believed in myself. And actually, even if I didn't believe in myself, I didn't have so many choices. So it's interesting talking about choices, in a way, how easy do we make that choice as well? How as midwives do we facilitate a choice that is empowered rather than just kind of giving up as well? So that also, I think, has to be a balance there. And if you start off at home, then you are much less likely to go on to have surgery. For so many reasons. I think the rate, we all know that actually the rise in inductions is what's going on with the section rate. Oh, this is my dad's grandfather clock. It's very beautiful. So yeah, not kicking and screaming, just quietly going about what we are doing. Yeah, and getting this kind of comfort about birth. It's just nice to give birth, no? It's beautiful to give birth, and within this kind of holding of a community, it is such a magic thing to do. We have a really tiny section rate within our practice here, tiny. And I think women are really held. And it's an interesting thing about the Dutch system is it's been really shown that one of the reasons they have such good home birth rates, other than there's a million reasons, is that they really, really concentrate on preparing women for birth. And this is what we need to do, really. The classes that I run, I know that women love them and they come out of them at the end, hopefully going, actually, I don't need you as a midwife. I can have a baby. So that's perfect for me, looking at this great big discussion about free birth. But free birth is, for me, a woman just going, hey, I know I can have a baby. Without doubt. Not, I can't do this or I can't have a home birth because there's no midwife or all these other like political reasons, but really a woman and her partner just going, hey, we know we can have a baby. And that is the most beautiful thing in the world.
Thank you, Vanessa. And actually, it takes that is an empowered choice versus I'm not going near a hospital because I was traumatized last time, or this happened to my mum, or this happened.
That's not a choice.
Therefore,
really.
I'm going to free birth, but I'm terrified, and therefore, actually, the chances of that going well is very unlikely as a result. So, thank you. Julie, over to you. What would you
Well,
like
I
to find
think, yeah, what I would like to go back to is what we're actually all looking for is love. You know, at the end of the day, and this goes back to my early spiritual experience, is that when I experienced to being completely unconditionally loved, seen, known, protected, guided by light, by cosmic intelligence. So what have I seen is the polarity between our faith and our connection with innate intelligence, which is our body, which is our birthing rights, which is motherhood, that our body is intelligent. You know, I just saw a YouTube where scientists with AI have discovered that crows have language. They can recognize people, they retain that. I mean, it's just incredible what they found out. But they're so astonished that birds are actually, or this kind of bird is actually intelligent. And I was just thinking, but why don't they get it? Everything is intelligent. Every cell, every microorganism, all the way up to every galaxy, everything is this light. Everything is intelligent. And the First Nations people that Françoise has worked with, they are keeping that knowledge. It's more than knowledge, it's that connection, that understanding alive with the Pachamama, and everything is intelligent. So you've got that, and then what has come in is all this everything artificial. And to the point where they really don't see that anything other than, you know, a few square centimeters in their brain is intelligent. I mean, for me, it's like, wow, what pride. The downfall of humanity on that pride slope is everything is intelligent, and we are meant to live in love. That is the code of the universe.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. That is beautiful and absolutely spot on. You remind me of Dr. Bruce Lipton. If anyone does want to see the interview I did with this phenomenal man, it's at the top of the YouTube channel. And I think one of the key things you just reminded me of is this lesson in recognizing that it's not the nucleus of the cell that is the brain of the cell, but actually the cell membrane. And the nucleus of the cell is essentially the gonads, which he jokes about the fact that, you know, how it's only, I don't want to discredit masculines, but, you know, this idea that we think that the real brain is actually the gonads when it isn't. It's not the testicles. So, you know, for me, my kind of final thoughts here really are around the fact that having come from extreme fear myself around birth, I feel this is part of the education, and it's, the pre-work is essential. So whether we're able to work with potential parents to be before they even think about conceiving, and actually really build on their relationship with themselves, their own bodies, their own connection to source, because actually, Julie, love, light, this is what we're talking about. The future for me of what I call the divine human is the heart-centered, soul-influenced human. And I feel there's a real there is a sort of bifurcation going on the planet where people are choosing their path, but some are not aware of the choices they're making. It's not an informed choice. And so we are bringing these conversations to help people make informed decisions, because any challenge has a solution. And so if we allow ourselves to accept that things might not be exactly as we want them to be, maybe there are health conditions, maybe there are reasons. I was with a woman with a bicornuate uterus a few days ago, you know, like there can be reasons why we have to, well, we always surrender to the highest good and the win-win-win. That is my passion. And my book's full of this. Julie's book is full of this. Françoise's book is full of, Françoise has written many books actually. And, you know, I want to finish with bringing this back to, I know Dr. Michel Odon did write a book called Birth in the Age of Plastics, where we were really talking about the impact of not just birth, but even medicalized fertility and medicalized, like sanitizing death, fertility and birth. This is a big issue and it's another conversation. And it doesn't, none of us here are like just going, oh, so-and-so, this is it. We're all learning to be discerning and to take the best from everything and weave together a new reality. So thank you all so much for participating today. We literally, Julie posed the invitation 3 days ago. So we're doing this just like that when it happens. So we really welcome any comments, any suggestions for future topics. This is going to keep going. And Loose Women, I'm going to keep sending you these videos until we get on the show and have the discussion, because it's important that women talk to women about this, and that we open the conversation and understand there's far more to it than what our mother told us, what our doctor told us, what our midwife told us, what the newspaper said. And when we open the lid, it can seem a little scary initially and overwhelming, but as Pandora's box, hope was at the bottom. I'm going to turn hope to trust, because trust is code word for magic, and we are co-creating a new reality through what we're saying right here, right now. So thank you all so much for this beautiful discussion. Huge hugs, so much love to you all. And may all the birth keepers in this world, those who have been so diligently holding the light and, you know, moving through the challenges, may we all just recognize how held, supported, and appreciated we are for what we're doing. Thank you. Ta-ra for now.
Thank you, Rosie.
Bye,
Vanessa,
love you. Have a
everyone.
gorgeous birthday, Sophia.
everybody.
Thank you so much. I will.
Just before I finish, we will put everyone's details in the text box. Just bear with us. It will take about 24 hours. But if anyone wants to reach out to anyone here, please do. We've all got wonderful courses and methodologies and wonderful things going on. So just really follow your bliss, follow who you're, you know, the light you're attracted to, and keep going on your journey. Together, we're co-creating a whole new reality, and it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Lots of love, everyone. Take care for now.
Loads of love.
Enjoy Bali, Françoise.
Enjoy
Yeah.
Bali.
Happy birthday, Sophia.
Thank you so
Happy
much,
birthday, Sophia.
everyone. Thank
Absolutely.
you.